Welcome back. It is still Thursday, January 21st, 2016. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News and the place you should be, because the next story is incredibly important and very courageous. So, it was almost 2 years ago that Maiman, a rather well-known Israeli actress, did something very, very courageous. She created a no-frills web series from her own bedroom, a one-woman project titled Toolkit for Rape Recovery. In the series, both in English and in Hebrew, she offers bold and honest advice to sexual abuse victims, dealing with topics ranging from self-blaming and evasive memories to having a post-abuse love life and facing the chronic trauma. She did that through 9 episodes, drawing on her own painful experiences and discoveries, and became a strong source of support for countless women in the country and abroad. Today, after a long hiatus, episode 10 of the series debuted on YouTube, in which she exposed her own heartbreaking story and came to term, essentially, with her own victimhood. And I'm very pleased to be joined in studio by director, actress, and the very courageous creator of Toolkit for Rape Recovery, Maiman. I want to thank you for being with us in the studio this morning. But we're not going to do this series justice without letting the viewers see what it is that you uploaded last night, I think it was, at around 2 o'clock. This is the last episode of the 10-episode series, Toolkit for Rape Recovery. Let's have a look at what was uploaded to YouTube last night.
עבר המון זמן, 1.5 שנה זמן, וכנראה לא סתם הייתי צריכה לקחת את הזמן הזה ולהתמודד עם המפלצת הנוראית הזאת שנקראת תלונה. למה זה טוב? מי צריך את זה? ומה לכל הרוחות אנחנו עושים את זה? נחמד לראות, אני רואה דרככם מה קרה לי ב1.5 שנה האחרונות, וכנראה לא סתם לקח לי הזמן הזה לחזור. הפרק הזה על תלונה אתגר אותי מאוד. אני עברתי 3 אירועים שונים, כמו שאתם יודעים. אף פעם עד עכשיו לא התלוננתי. ידעתי שאני לא יכולה לעשות סדרה על ערכת כלים להחלמה מאונס בלי להתייחס לנושא התלונה, וידעתי שאני לא יכולה לעשות פרק על תלונה בלי לעבור את זה בעצמי. אתה יושב שם בחדר קטן, ומנסה להיזכר בכל התכנים הוויזואליים האלה שעשית כל המאמצים האפשריים אי פעם להדחיק אותם. אתה צריך להציף פתאום דברים שכל החיים לא יכולת לשכוח, ופתאום חסרים לך פרטים, ופתאום יש דברים שאתה לא זוכר, דברים שכל החיים רצו לך במוח בלי שליטה. זו חוויה מאוד מאוד מוזרה ומאוד מתסכלת, והיא לוקחת אותך אחורה אם תרצה ואם לא תרצה. אז אני שוב מגיעה למשטרה לתת עדות, זאת כבר פעם שלישית. שאני מגיעה, בפעם הראשונה באתי להתלונן על האונס של גיל 20, ואז כבר סיפרתי את הסיפור של גיל 15, שבאיזשהו מובן היה רקע לסיפור הזה. לאחר מכן ביקשתי ממנו להגיש תלונה גם על הבחור של גיל 15. יום אחד, באמצע צילום לסרט, פתאום אני מקבלת איזו מעטפה שעברה בדואר בעקוב אחריי, והיא כבר מזמן ניסתה למצוא אותי. ואני רואה שזו מעטפה מהמשטרה. ואני פותחת, היו 2 מעטפות, אני פותחת את המעטפות, ואני יודעת שלתלונות שלי אין באמת סיכוי להגיע לכתב אישום, ועדיין אני פותחת את המעטפה, ואני רואה שהתלונה הראשונה נסגרה על התיישנות, והתלונה השנייה נסגרה בשל חוסר ראיות. ואני מקבלת את הנייר חזרה, שמה אותו במעטפה ולא חושבת על זה יותר. במשך כמה חודשים.
Maiman with us in studio. Listen, first of all, I tip my hat to you. This is incredibly, incredibly courageous. I want to talk a little bit about where this came from. And I hate doing this, because I think I'm listening to what you said in that video. It's something that you're trying as best as you can to suppress. You were basically attacked 3 times, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was sexually abused when I was 5, when I was 15, and then I was drug raped when I was 20. But I have to say this is a very typical experience. Whoever is sexually abused before he turns 18 is more likely to be raped, twice as likely to be raped later down the road. So
it's the victimhood mentality in some way.
I think there's certain, I called it in one of the episodes that we kind of know to find each other, the victim and the aggressor, we kind of spot each other out. But I think, yeah, there's some sort of connection there.
When you were 5, it was who?
It was a foreign worker, an immigrant worker working in our house, and he told me he'd kill me if I'll tell anyone, so it took me a few months to... I didn't actually choose to tell. Yeah, I was 5. I was 5, yeah. One day my mother told me it'll take me somewhere and start crying. I said what happened, and then he kind of disappeared, and that was the first incident.
Yeah. And then 15 was somebody, the family?
No, 15 it was someone from the Labour Party. At the time I was the chairperson of the Youth Labour Party in Israel, and he was in Mishmeret HaTzeira. It's like the younger, not youth, younger generation.
Youth, where we all joined.
Yeah, so he was from there. He was supposedly a friend. He took advantage of me. I was a minor. It took me a while to realize exactly what it was and to realize how illegal it was. I told a few friends who kind of protected me from that guy, but no one actually encouraged me to file a complaint. Yeah.
And it's 20 is
20 it was drug rape. It was the wedding of a friend. Someone basically took advantage. Again, it was one of those cases that it took me, I think, only a decade later, I realized it was drug rape. I knew something was wrong there. I knew I woke up with this guy inside of me not knowing what happened, but I had no way of proving or knowing. The only time I realized it was drug rape was when I heard someone else who was drug raped describing this moment when she woke up.
Yeah.
And she said it wasn't like being drunk or something, you know. She said she just switched back on. And the moment she said it, I was like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. That's what I realized.
In both cases of the complaints, well, first of all, I want to touch on the series. It's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly important. Where did it come from for you? Why did you start doing it?
I think the first time there's a character, I call her my sexual, my rape angel, my like sexual abuse and rape angel. And she approached me after my first documentary, which had nothing to do with rape. It was my grandmother Holocaust story. And she started telling me about all those elements or all those symptoms we suffer from. And for the first time, I started feeling a bit more sane because, you know,
You're not alone in those feelings.
I'm not alone, and all those things I thought were, you know, typically mine or just, you know, something personal are not. They're actually very, very basic ways of responding to that. And through her, I started learning. And then within years, whenever I mentioned something about sexual abuse or rape in the media, in publicities, I always got a few girls approaching me and telling me their story. And with like two of them, I really developed this very strong relationship in which I kind of played this older sister figure for them and shared with them whatever my rape angel told me. And I saw one of those girls, and she did an amazing journey. Like in 2 years, she became from this shadow of a person who cannot look no one in the eyes to this most beautiful woman who allowed herself to just be happy and be alive. And I realized if I could do what I did with her with much more people, but without me needing to go through the process every time, because it's quite emotionally draining for someone who went through that.
One can only imagine, and luckily so.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm looking at this exposure because I think in many ways, you know, victims do not want to expose themselves, an exposure that is incredibly strong. When you did this, how many people approached you? Because I know that this is widespread, but do people realize how widespread the idea of sexual assault is in our Western society and that everybody's afraid to complain?
I think it's becoming more and more obvious. My boyfriend told me he was surprised of how little people tend to share it, because so many people write to me personally and you know, thank you notes and stuff. And then I realized from friends that they share it in like WhatsApp groups rather than on their social media. So I think it's still a topic we're struggling to deal with, but it changes. Like today, for a woman to say that she went through sexual abuse or rape, it's much easier than it used to be. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier than it used to be. For men, by the way, it's still not. For men, it's still kind of out of the taboo, and there are 1 of 6 that are raped or
sexual assaults are against men.
Yeah.
And saying and putting that out there, and you know, and coming forward. I didn't see the entire series, and there are 12 episodes, as you mentioned, not 10. There are 12 episodes that still will come up. It affects the life of a victim throughout. You're in a relationship right now, but how did you, I mean, this was somewhat of a healing process because it affected your relationship with men and with society, didn't it?
Very much so, very much so. I was just saying, like my boyfriend now, it's the first time since I started working on Toolkit that I actually have a serious and a good relationship, if I may say myself. It's been a struggle. I do try to find the way, the kind of the balance between the fact that it is some sort of trauma that we will carry forever to the fact that we want to aspire to healing. And even if there's no complete healing, at least there is somewhat letting go of the control of the story on our life. So that's where I'm aiming by episode 12, but it's a very, very challenging path, I guess.
I want to tell you that you seem unless it's some sort of an act, you seem very much in control of your life. You seem very much, somebody who's working through it, and I think it's remarkable to see, but it's also important to know that many women, are living this still in secret and in darkness. When I'm looking at your footage and I'm looking at your story, the one thing that I saw in the episode yesterday, that moment when you go into the police, and I want to wrap on that, what is when you sit in front of people and you have to tell this story?
It was really weird. If you'd asked me before what would be difficult, I would never imagine, but like this feeling of suddenly trying to remember details that you just can't, and you know that all your life they hunted you, but that specific moment they just don't come up.
It's the last thing you want us to talk about, isn't it?
You want to talk about it, but you don't want it at the same time. It was really, really challenging. I've got to say, it's been a year ago, and still when I think of it, part of me shrinks to a certain level. But I do think, I think if to look back it was a very important thing to do. It was hell while I went through that. But looking back, I think it was for me a huge step in terms of demanding my justice and saying I'm not going to take any more abuse from anyone.
And to conclude, the series has, because it's called Toolkit for the fresh rape victim, one heck of a title, but it deals with, just run me through it, it's with going to the police. Each episode has a theme, right?
Each episode has a theme in healing. It started as Toolkit for the fresh rape victim, and they changed it in episode 6 to Toolkit for rape recovery. And I think that's the process I'm going through, from like a more of kind of an aggressive, upset place into a more kind of
a whole one,
willing to heal and going forward. But yeah, each episode is like a theme in dealing with that, and hopefully by the end of that, me and the viewers could get some sort of a release.
I think you're amazing, Maiman, and I think we need more women like you. And I'm very, very happy that you came to the studio. Ami Kaufman is also very happy you came to the studio. I think in many ways.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Because I mean, it's your. It's your efforts on the web, one would say, because one can see this thing on this series on the web. It's on YouTube, and it is the new future. But I think that's the story that drives it home. But it's obviously not the first time that people try to explain, right?
Right. I want to show you a video that's kind of used. We were seeing it. It's already a few months old, but we're seeing it pop up a lot more
in Israel
lately here in Israel, but also in other places around the world, because they made an Israeli version about it in Hebrew, but the original in English was made in Britain, and it uses wanting a cup of tea as an analogy for sexual consent. It was made by the British Police Department, and it's just an amazing way to explain to people. When someone says no, what it means, no means no.
No means no.
So let's take a look at this video.
Let's take a look at this, definitely.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please. That's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea.
They just don't want tea, okay?
It's brilliant. It's just
they
perfect.
don't want tea is one of the things that, but no, you're still with us because we're looking at this, and I'm thinking, I kind of dragged Ami into this conversation, is what do we need to tell men, not just about tea? But,
I think that's brilliant. I shared it myself. I think that says it all. It is very basic after all, and I do think we should separate between like 5 or 10% of pathology, rapists, pedophiles, to the rest of society, which are men that've been mal-educated in a way, or just the creator, the result of the times where they lived in. And I think that's a new social code we need to develop, which videos like that are amazing,
Also on YouTube, if I don't want tea, I really don't want tea. Ami, I don't want tea.
You don't want tea?
I don't want tea.
Sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I'm positive.
Then I think that you will not get tea.
I will not get tea. There we go. With the web, that is the spiral vial. We have very little time, but yes.
Yeah, a little newsy one. First, about the Oscars. We're talking a lot about the Oscars and how white they are, not really racially diverse. And we know that Jada Pinkett Smith is going to boycott them. Spike Lee is going to boycott them. And yesterday we also found out that, pretty much the biggest actor in Hollywood, George Clooney, he's not going to boycott it, but he did have some very harsh words for how things are being handled. Says we need to get better at this. We used to be better at it about a decade ago and 20 years ago when people when people of color were nominated for Oscars. By the way, this is the second year in a row where people of color have not been right. And also the Star Wars star Lupita Nyong'o is also saying that she is disappointed by the lack of inclusion. So this is not going anywhere anytime soon.
And I think the Oscars are right after the American political caucuses, the primaries in February.
Right.
But it starts with the primaries and ends with the Oscars.
Yes.
In that respect, in the United States, but they do keep a lot of they keep us going, the journalists.
Definitely.
Yeah, white Oscars and Trump in Iowa.
Yeah.
Ami, thank you. No, Maiman, it was amazing to have you in studio. I will never make you tea. I want to thank you. There we go. But when we get back, something entirely different, fashion. Stay with us now, the news.